The sun hung low over the Aegean Sea, casting golden ripples upon the restless waves. Fishermen along the coast of Anatolia hauled in their nets, unaware that the threads of fate were being pulled taut by unseen hands. In the distance, the mighty city of Troy stood unshaken, its towering walls built by the gods themselves, or so the legends claimed. For generations, it had been a beacon of power, a kingdom so wealthy that its gates were said to be plated in gold, its streets paved with the spoils of trade. But beneath its splendor, a storm was gathering, a storm that would be remembered for millennia. It began not with the clashing of swords, but with a whisper, a decision made in the halls of Mount Olympus. The gods, ever capricious, delighted in the dramas of mortals. Eris, the goddess of discord, had not been invited to a wedding feast, and in her wrath, she cast a golden apple among the guests. To the fairest, it read. 3 goddesses reached for it: Hera, queen of the gods; Athena, the warrior maiden; and Aphrodite, whose beauty could make men forget their own names. Zeus, unwilling to choose, decreed that a mortal would decide, and so the apple fell into the hands of Paris, a prince of Troy, who had been raised as a shepherd after a prophecy foretold he would bring ruin to his city. The goddesses appeared before him, each offering a bribe. Hera promised power, Athena offered wisdom, but Aphrodite swore to give him the love of the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris, young and reckless, chose desire over duty. He awarded the apple to Aphrodite, and with that single choice, the wheels of destiny began to turn. Helen of Sparta was no ordinary woman. Born from the union of Zeus and the mortal queen Leda, her beauty was said to be divine. Kings and princes had vied for her hand, but she had been wed to Menelaus, the powerful ruler of Sparta. Their marriage was one of politics, not passion, until Paris arrived. Some say Aphrodite struck Helen with enchanted desire. Others claim she fled willingly, seduced by the prince's charm and the promise of a life beyond duty. Whatever the truth, when Paris sailed back to Troy with Helen at his side, he carried not just a queen, but a curse. Menelaus, humiliated and enraged, called upon his brother Agamemnon, High King of Mycenae. The rulers of Greece gathered like wolves, scenting blood. Odysseus, the cunning king of Ithaca, tried to avoid the war by feigning madness, plowing his fields with salt, but his ruse was discovered. Achilles, the greatest warrior of his age, was hidden by his mother Thetis, who knew he would die if he went to Troy. But destiny could not be cheated. One by one, the kings and heroes pledged their swords. 1,000 ships were assembled, their sails black against the horizon, their prows cutting through the waves like blades. For 9 years, the Greeks laid siege to Troy. The Trojans, led by the noble Hector, defended their walls with unbreakable resolve. Battles raged across the plains outside the city, the earth drinking the blood of fallen heroes. Achilles, clad in armor forged by Hephaestus himself, was unstoppable, until his rage cost him everything. When Agamemnon took Achilles' war prize, the maiden Briseis, the great warrior, withdrew from battle, leaving the Greeks to falter. Without him, they were pushed back again and again, their losses mounting. But the gods were not done weaving their tapestry of fate. Patroclus, Achilles' beloved companion, donned his armor and led the Myrmidons into battle, hoping to rally the Greeks. For a moment, it worked. The Trojans retreated, thinking Achilles had returned. But Hector, Prince of Troy, met Patroclus on the battlefield and struck him down. When Achilles learned of his friend's death, his grief turned to fury. He stormed onto the battlefield like a force of nature, slaughtering all in his path until he faced Hector alone. The duel was swift and brutal. Achilles, fueled by vengeance, drove his spear through Hector's throat, then dragged his body behind his chariot in a final act of desecration. Even then, Troy did not fall. Its walls remained unbroken, its people defiant. The Greeks, weary of war, turned to trickery. Odysseus, ever the strategist, devised a plan. They would build a monstrous wooden horse, an offering to Athena, and leave it before the gates as they pretended to sail away. The Trojans, believing the war was over, dragged the horse inside their walls, rejoicing in their supposed victory. They did not know that the belly of the beast concealed the deadliest of foes. That night, as the city slept, the hidden Greeks crept out. They opened the gates, and the waiting army poured in like a flood. Troy burned. Its men were slaughtered, its women taken captive, its children left to wander the ruins. Helen was reclaimed by Menelaus. Though some say he hesitated before striking her, her beauty still held power over him. Paris, struck by a poisoned arrow, died in agony, and Achilles, despite his mother's warnings, fell to an arrow in his heel, the one vulnerable spot on his body. By dawn, the great city was no more. The gods watched in silence as the smoke curled into the sky. The war had ended, but its echoes would never fade. The survivors scattered across the earth, carrying with them stories of love and betrayal, of heroes and fools, of a war that began with an apple and ended in fire. And so the tale of Troy passed into legend, a warning to all who would let pride and passion rule their hearts. Even now, when the wind howls across the ruins of that fallen city, some say you can still hear the whispers of the dead, reminders of the price of war, and the folly of men who dare to challenge the will of the gods.